Hi, my name is Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation, and I can tell you right now that this topic is going to get me in trouble. And I don't care. The topic is how sex addiction affects marriages. Now, I began the Marriage Foundation quite a while ago. I think it was 2009, because a fellow divorce mediator, because that's what I used to be. In 2001, I was a divorce mediator, read the book that I had written after practicing with people for a long time, saving a bunch of marriages. And he said, Paul, you got to start a foundation. He handed me $1,000. It wasn't enough, but I gave it back to him for legal fees to start the foundation. And here we are. We've been helping a lot of people. Right now, we have like 25,000 subscribers, and you should subscribe too. And I want you to really think about what we're going to talk about with this sex addiction crap, because that is what it is. Addiction, by definition, means that there's a physiological addiction. Otherwise, it is a deeply ingrained habit. There's a huge difference. A deeply ingrained habit you have power over. An addiction is a chemical problem, and unless you get rid of the chemical, and don't tell me about endorphins, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about drug abuse and alcohol abuse. Those you can be addicted to. But you can't be addicted to sex. You could just really crave it. You could be habitually chasing skirts if you're a man. You could be habitually checking out men and wanting to go to bed with them if you're a woman. But let's really get down to this whole thing. Let's talk about this whole thing, and let's talk about it scientifically. Okay? Is that fair? So, where does the sex drive originate? Where does it originate? Well, let's take a look at what we are. We are human beings. Yeah. As human beings, what we really are essentially is we're a soul. We're a soul. We have a body. You are not your body. You have one, right? You also have a mind. You are not your mind. You have a mind. So far, where is sex coming from? That drive for sex. You know this because you learned about it when you went to school, middle school probably, when you learned about the nature of life itself. That life is all about self-preservation, right? The drive to survive. Well, your soul does not have a drive to survive. As a soul, you're infinite. You don't need a drive to survive. You exist. You were created by God. You will exist forever. Your mind is just a computer, really. It has a lot of functions that have confused Western psychologists for a long time, like emotions and desires. But what really is driving this drive for sex is the drive to survive, because subordinate to that drive to survive is the drive to propagate, to procreate, because there's nothing more protective than a community. So that is happening at the cellular level, cellular level. And it's pinging your mind. And your mind is calculating and turning it into a drive for sex. Whether it's you or your husband or your wife. That's where the sex drive comes from. But we are human beings. We're not dogs. We're not bears. We're not porpoises or birds. We're human beings. We have free choice. We have a consciousness and awareness of ourselves, our environment, potential for the future. Animals don't have ideas of potential for the future. It's purely human. But what happens is we have not been taught that we are human beings, which means we are souls, which means we possess a body and we possess a mind, and here's how the body works and here's how the mind works. And so there's this drive to procreate that has gotten out of whack and it's taken on characteristics based on the imagination of the human mind, which has infinite potential for imagination. And the whole thing is missing the point. Now you have just learned something, and if you put it all together, you will see that everything that I said is true. It can't not be true. It's absolutely true. It's reality. It's scientific. The missing ingredient here is that your relationship with your soulmate is supposed to be operating on the level of the soul. The soul is love, joy, and wisdom. That's the nature of the soul. But what's happened is you've come down to this level. You have been mistaught. It's not your fault. We've been mistaught. We've turned sex into a recreation instead of using it as a means of communicating our love. And that's where the problem arises. What happens is the man or the woman wants and craves sex and forgets that it's a means for expressing love. And it never can be fulfilled because we're not animals. Animals are fulfilled once they have their orgasm or once their egg is fertilized. They're done. They don't need sex anymore. They may have a little pleasure from it once in a while, accidentally, because the nerve endings are there, but that's about it. But human beings have taken it to this other level. And it's not a good level to be, because it doesn't produce joy. It produces frustration, unhappiness, conflict. It's not a good place to be. So what do? If your husband is a sex addict, what you do, and this is going to sound like I'm trying to get you to do something, but it works in reverse too, is you give up the sex. But you transform it and you start working on the relationship at the higher level in which that sex should be part of your marital relationship anyway, because when you're married, you want to give your love, heart, mind, and soul in every way and in any way that you can. Because by giving love, you experience love, and that's where it's at. So you got to get out of the sex consciousness, whether you're the recipient or the deliverer. You got to get out of the sex consciousness and get into the consciousness of love. And that's what it's all about. Now, hopefully you're already a subscriber to this channel. If not, you should become one so you could really learn all this cool stuff about marriage. You should also like the video because I like likes. And if you're one of those who has been asking, hey, I want to be a TMF marriage counselor, I have good news for you because we're starting to work on that. It's not on the website yet, but it will be. Let us know if you have an interest. We're interested in you becoming one because our next operational mode will be to start up a lot of people who use our systems so they can truly help people with their marriages. And I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. I thank you for visiting. God bless you, and take care.